Hi everyone. Today I'm going to continue on with discussions of some of the Francois Truffaut movies, seven of them that were released in February 2023 by Kino Lorber. Today I want to talk about a movie from 1975, and this is the story of Adele H. and directed by Francois Truffaut and starring Isabell Adjani. And this is a film, a very much sort of a gothic horror film in some ways. It's really a hard film to describe. I think it's a great film. But it's set in 1863, time of the American Civil War. In the opening scene, we see a young woman arriving on a boat from Europe. She's arriving at the city of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Why is she there all by herself? She is pursuing a passion that she had developed for an officer, a lieutenant, who she had had a relationship with. There was intimations of they might get married, but he's a very feckless officer. He is a womanizer, and he has used her. She has given himself to him, as the saying went in those days. But when she arrives and she's kind of furtively, she's very secretive. She seems to be playing a part. She's pretending to be somebody that she's not. She's hiding who she really is. But eventually, she gets into contact with the officer, and he wants nothing to do with her. He's just astonished that she would cross the ocean on a perilous journey to pursue him. But she doesn't take no for an answer. She becomes sort of a stalker in the modern parlance. There is certainly more than a whiff of mental illness. Julie Kergo, in a great commentary that for this movie, says probably schizophrenic. But she's in love. She's not even so much in love with this officer. She's in love with her obsession, with her passion. To the nth degree. I mean, there's no end to her obsession with him, to the point where it would seem near death. And Truffaut oftentimes would contrast or align death and love together. Certainly, the more food, the destructive power of passions. He's done that in other films as well. Certainly. The film I talked about a few days ago, The Bride Wore Black, Mississippi Mermaid, where the obsession is from John Paul Belmondo for Catherine Deneuve. So she basically debases herself. She has a rich father back in Europe, and he sends her money, but she gives it to him. She tells, go whoring, go do this. She spies on him. And he gets into trouble for this, and eventually he moves on. His regiment moves on to another country, and the implication is Adele going to pursue him even farther? So she goes into near poverty, but she relies on the kindness of strangers. And there's a carriage man, there's a boarding house, a carriage driver, a boarding house, and with the couple take her under their wing. Wherever she goes, they're kind of like angels that protect her. She looks like she needs protection. Kindness is another very much prominent theme in Francois Truffaut movies, and she is part of her kind of. Her schizophrenia or psychosis, whatever you want to call it, her obsession for sure. She dreams of her older sister. She's had this older sister who was revered by her father and the other family members. She's the youngest child in this family. Her older sister drowns tragically in the Seine, along with her husband, and the family puts up like a shrine to this older sister. So she's seeking, for sure, the love of the father. And who is this father? It's Adele H, but what's that H stand for? If you don't know the story became very famous back in the 1970s, and especially with Truffaut's movie, which was very popular in the 70s. Her father was Victor Hugo, the famous French poet and novelist, writer of Les Miserables, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the most famous man in the world, as he's called in this in this movie. And this movie is a true story. So Victor Hugo did have a daughter who drowned. He did have a youngest daughter who does go to Nova Scotia to pursue a love that her father pretty much forbade her to would not give her his consent to when there was talk of marriage. But he is sending her money. And the film is really, it's really Isabell Adjani. She was 19 years old when she played Adele. She's absolutely fantastic. I mean, this is one of the great performances, not just of the 1970s, but one of the great performances, I think, of romantic obsession. She was a stage actress. She did one television show. I think she did one other movie. This is not her debut. I think she was acting from the time she was about 14. So this is 5 years into her acting career. And but she was a rising star on stage, and the Truffaut saw her in the TV show, and that was it. He couldn't make the movie unless she was going to star in it, and there was some finagling being done where she had to break her contract in order, her stage contract in order to play in this film. The officer is played by Bruce Robinson. He's not asked to do a whole lot except look handsome, which he definitely does. Bruce Robinson may be a name that you might know because Bruce Robinson already was writing screenplays, and he would go on to write many more screenplays, including, I think he wrote the screenplay to The Killing Fields, but he wrote and directed the cult film With Nail and Eye. He was also in Romeo and Juliet, and one of the characters in With Nail and Eye is supposedly based on Franco Zeffirelli, who directed Romeo and Juliet. This is the 1968 version. So the cinematographer who Truffaut had worked with before, Nestor Almendros, just gorgeous cinematography. I mean, this is a great restoration. This is a Twilight Time, originally a Twilight Time release, I believe, around 2015. But this is just a showcase for Almendros' talent. He would go on to win an Academy Award for his work with Terrence Malick on Days of Heaven. So what about the real Adele? This is based on a true story, and we were told right from the beginning of the film. We get a little bit of the history. Who was the real Adele? Now, it's part of the public record, so it's not really a spoiler. And also, this type of movie is not about what's going to happen next. It's a character study. It's a character in a very strange, unusual situation. It's about faces. It's about expressions. It's about inventiveness. It's about madness. But the real Adele was much older, so Isabell Adjani is only 19 here. And it's a crucial difference because the real Adele was 33 when she went on her pursuit of her of this officer. So she would have been regarded more or less as a spinster, and it lasted her obsession, her absence from home, her following, trailing, stalking this lieutenant. Lasted, or at least her exile, her self-exile, lasted about 12 years. Now, her father himself was in exile during these years. He was living on the island of Guernsey. I believe he was writing Les Miserables during this time period. So it is a story, too, of exile. Exile from the family, in Hugo's case, exile from his country, which he eventually is given a hero's welcome back when Napoleon, left the throne, and a republic. Hugo was a Republican. And eventually, Adele, in real life, goes back to Europe due to the kindness of strangers, and but it was put right into a clinic. She lived another 40 years, I think. I think she died at the age of 85. So as I mentioned, there is a terrific commentary by Julie Kergo and Nick Redman that was filmed for this Twilight Time release in, I believe it was 2015. And they discuss all these different aspects. Julie Kergo really knows Francois Truffaut's career, how it relates to his other films. Nick Redman is there basically to provide to provide some additional commentary and to impel Julie Kergo to for more information. For instance, the music is old music from the 1930s. Gilbert, I forget his first name, but I think they used some of the music from some Jean Vigo movies, and it's just gorgeous, just a gorgeous musical score. The whole film to me is absolutely stupendous. I saw this film in 1975. I'm not sure that I ever saw it again till the other night, and I was just dumbfounded by it. It's just the beauty of it, the formal beauty, not just the beauty of the cinematography, but the beauty of Truffaut's direction. As I said, the close-ups, the fade-outs. He leaves you room to identify with Adele, and that is the thing about Truffaut, is that he needs to feel some connection. So as we watch her fall, in Adele H's fall throughout it's like a train wreck. Even though she is ruining the life basically of the object of her passion, you can't help feeling that you can't help admiring the single-mindedness of this obsession. Now, Pauline Kael, I read a review in one of the books I have by Pauline Kael in her contemporaneous review. She calls the story of Adele H a comedy. And I think she calls it a comedy because it's so over the top, the passion, the obsession, that has a comic overtone to it. Pauline Kael also considers the story of Adele H to be one of the great films of the 1970s. And in the afterglow of having watched the film a couple days ago, I'm not going to argue with her on that. Okay, so thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.